everyone, it's me again. Today I'm going to read to you chapter 2 of my book, Wildmoore, Wrath of Zane. Hope you enjoy. Chapter 2, Trouble at Granny's Kitchen. After finishing her homework at the bookstore, Natalie was able to take a bus ride back to her apartment building. Her mind was trailing with a train of thoughts on the bus ride home, with Kyle's words of encouragement buzzing in her mind. She understood that she couldn't let a Wildmoore side get to her because Natalie's family life was her business and no one else's. As the bus reached her stop, Natalie walked out of the bus and headed to her apartment building. She opened the door to her apartment and shouted, "Aunt Mari, I'm home!" "I'm in my office, kid," Mari shouted. Natalie followed the sound of her aunt's voice sounding in the office. Mari worked as an accountant from home because, due to the accident 13 years ago, Mari had post-traumatic stress disorder. Mari had suffered many panic attacks whenever she saw a car drive by, because it served as a reminder of how she ended up in her wheelchair and how she lost her sister. She couldn't contain a job with this condition, so she thought it would be easier to work from home to not only keep her PTSD at bay, but also to look after her niece. Natalie gently knocked on the door of her aunt's office and said, "Hey." Mari turned her wheelchair around and asked with a smile, "Hey, hun, how was school?" "Oh, it was fine. Nothing special happened," Natalie said. But even the white lie did not fool Mari like her niece was telling her. "Hun, you don't have to lie. At least not with me. Was that girl bothering you again?" Mari asked, wheeling her chair towards her niece. Natalie let out a sigh, somehow knowing that Kyle was the one who called and told her aunt what had happened. However, Natalie explained, she was making up lies about Mom again, and she even called me a freaky know-it-all for answering a question right. I just don't get it. What did I ever do to her? Mari could see that her niece was troubled by what she was battling at school. So she gestured for Natalie to sit down on a nearby chair. She sat across from her aunt, and Mari said, "Sweetie, mean girls are just trying to get power from your reaction. You didn't do anything wrong to her, so you shouldn't keep letting her tear you down." Believe me, Aunt Mari, I tried to ignore her, but she wouldn't let go. At least Miss Stanford and Kyle were able to keep me up when I almost broke down, Natalie said. "Not just them, you also got me," Mari said, putting her hand on her niece's knee and giving her a comforting smile. Natalie knew, aside from her teacher and Kyle, that she would always count on her aunt to help her through the toughest moments of her life, school. Suddenly, Mari grabbed her nearby bus pass and said, "I think you and I should go out for dinner tonight. I was thinking Granny's Kitchen." Granny's Kitchen was always Natalie's favorite place to go whenever she and her aunt would have a heavy conversation about either her mother or her troubles at school. The niece and aunt headed out of the apartment, and Natalie pushed her aunt's wheelchair towards the bus stop, where a bus was waiting for them. The aunt-niece duo arrived at Granny's Kitchen with smiles on their faces. Natalie and Mari were frequent customers at the restaurant, and due to that, The waiters and waitresses would greet them with smiles and small talk about how their day was. Natalie and Mari were able to find a booth and started to order from the menu. Mari often ordered the country fried steak with potatoes and gravy, while Natalie ordered a cheeseburger with lettuce and mayo along with french fries. For something to drink, Natalie normally just got water, while Mari just got coffee. Natalie, as she and her aunt waited for the order, began to discuss what Miss Stanford had told her at class today. "So Miss Stanford wants you to be a writer?" Mari asked. "That's what she implied. But most of the stuff I write about were talking animals from my dreams. But because my stories are usually so short, she wanted to see more. Only, I don't know if there's any more to tell," Natalie said, toying with the straw in her cup. "It's never too late to figure it out. Besides, you're a gifted writer and a smart young woman. You'll imagine something when the time comes. If your mother were still here and had it her way, she would convince you to write. It's what she would have wanted for you," Mari replied with a saddened smile. Natalie understood that not only the loss of her mother was hard on her, but it was hard on her aunt also, because Grace was her eldest sister and had often taken care of her whenever their parents were away. Although Natalie didn't know what her grandparents did for a living, she understood more about her mother and aunt being remarkably close. "I know this is what Mom would have wanted for me, and I promise I'll think of something to write," Natalie assured her aunt, but then a familiar voice sneered, "Like your writing is any special." Natalie rolled her eyes as she knew who would say that. Laurel. Laurel was at Granny's kitchen with her father, Mr. Jeffers, and was sitting at a nearby table. The bully got up from her table and walked over to the aunt-niece duo with a cunning smile on her face. "Laurel, what are you doing here?" Natalie asked, already getting tired of what Laurel was about to say next. "Oh, I'm just here having dinner with my dad. Clearly you're here with your cripple of an aunt," Laurel sneered, but Natalie protested defensively. "Don't call her that. My aunt never did anything to you or to anyone." Laurel just scoffed at her and said, "You don't have to defend the woman who killed your mom. Then again, your mom probably didn't even love you after all." "She did love me," Natalie argued, trying to hold back tears. "And for the record, I didn't cause my sister's death. A drunk driver did. And it ended my sister's life. What happened to her mother is none of your business, young lady," Mari said with a glare in her eyes. Laurel rolled her eyes and said, "Actually, it is my business, and everyone should know that Natalie had a mother who didn't love her, a disabled aunt who couldn't take care of her, and a deadbeat father who probably didn't love her as well." Mr. Jeffers stood up from his seat and reprimanded, "Laurel, enough! Leave them alone!" Laurel turned to her father and said, "But Daddy, I'm just stating the facts about this freak. This world will be better off if she's not around. Young lady, enough. Apologize to the young girl and her aunt, or you'll be punished," Mr. Jeffers snarled. But Laurel defiantly shook her head and said, crossing her arms, "I'm not going to apologize for telling the truth about little orphan Natalie." Suddenly, the waiter who took Natalie and Mari's orders arrived with their food and saw the scuffle unfolding. And he asked, "Is everything okay?" Mari turned to him and replied, "Everything's okay, but we would like to take our food to go." The waiter nodded and replied, "I will put them in to-go boxes for you, and be right back with your bill." "Thank you," Mari said before the waiter left, and Mr. Jeffers firmly said, "Laurel, go outside and wait in the car." Laurel turned to her dad and tried to protest. "But Daddy!" "Now," Mr. Jeffers said, his tone more assertive. Laurel then relented and walked out of the restaurant, but not before looking back at Natalie with a threatening glare that sent one clear message. This isn't over. After Laurel stormed out, Mr. Jeffers stayed behind and looked over at Mari and Natalie before proceeding toward them, and replied with a remorseful look on his face. "I am really sorry about how Laurel acted just now. She's usually never like this before." "It's okay, Mr. Jeffers. She's been like this since she found out about my mom, and it was even worse at school," Natalie meekly replied. The waiter came back with her food, now in to-go containers, and with their bill. Mari was about to reach for it, but Mr. Jeffers gestured for her to stop and replied, "No, please, allow me." Mr. Jeffers picked up the bill and pulled out his credit card before handing it to the waiter, and said, "Put the order on my bill." Both Mari and Natalie were stunned by his gesture. So the older woman replied, "Oh, sir, you didn't have to do that." "Oh, please, I insist. You two could use a friendly face after what my daughter just said, and trust me, she's going to get an earful once we head home. Speaking of which, do you two need money to get home?" Mr. Jeffers asked. Natalie stood up from her seat and politely said, "No, thank you, sir. We actually have bus passes, so we got our transportation covered. But thank you so much for the offer, though." Mr. Jeffers gave them a nod before he retrieved his credit card from the waiter and headed outside to his car where Laurel was waiting for him. After Mr. Jeffers left, Natalie and Mari gathered the to-go containers and left towards the bus stop. Mr. Jeffers and Laurel were just driving away when Natalie rolled the window down in the back seat and shouted at Natalie, "I'm gonna deal with you at school, freak." However, Mari gave her niece a comforting rub on the back and said, "Don't listen to her. We have one more stop to go to before we head home." True to her words, Mari and Natalie boarded the bus and headed to Small Cakes Bakery, where they picked out their favorite cupcakes in a 6-pack box. Mari picked 3, which were the orange creamsicle, mudslide, and lemon drop, while Natalie picked out cannoli, grasshopper, and raspberry lemonade, equaling up to 6 cupcakes. They paid for the cupcakes before heading back to the bus stop and headed home, with Natalie staying silent for the whole ride. Mari could see this as unusual because Natalie was very chatty on their aunt and niece dinner dates, but immediately knew that Natalie's sudden silence had something to do with what Laurel had said back at Granny's kitchen. She knew she had to restore her niece's confidence, and she had the best option on how to do it. Mari and Natalie's bus arrived at the bus stop near their apartment building and headed to their residence with their food and cupcakes in hand. Natalie went to her room before shouting, "I'll get myself ready. I'll be right back." Natalie closed her bedroom door behind her and changed into her navy blue white polka dot pajamas. However, after changing into her pajamas, she sat on her bed and retrieved a framed photo of her mother from her nightstand. The young girl looked at the framed photo and decided to talk to it. "I don't know what to do, Mom. This girl at school, Laurel, she just wouldn't stop tormenting me. And it became a lot worse whenever it was after school. just can't get away from her. As if she thought humiliating me at school just wasn't enough for her. I wish you were here to tell me what to do. Don't get me wrong, Aunt Mari is amazing and is always there for me. But I don't want to worry her any further. Just give me some kind of sign for me to get away from everything, so I wouldn't have to deal with my troubles anymore. Unbeknownst to her, Mari overheard her niece talk to the framed photo of Grace and tried to hold back tears. Understandably, growing up without a mother was often hard for Natalie to cope with, and being made fun of by her peers because of it didn't help any matters. Mari gently knocked on her niece's bedroom door and asked, "Natalie, can I come in?" Natalie gently set the photo of her mother back onto her nightstand and said, "Sure, come in." Mari gently pushed the door open and wheeled into Natalie's room with a small black box resting on her lap. Natalie knew instantly that her aunt had heard her say everything to the photo of her mother, and immediately felt ashamed. However, Mari replied, "Sweetie, you don't have to be ashamed of what you said. I'm just more so worried about you." Natalie could feel tears starting to well up in her eyes and said, "I just don't want to worry you too much about what everyone was saying about us at school. But matters made it worse after what happened back at Granny's kitchen tonight. Oh, sweetie, you don't have to protect me from stuff like that. I'm a grown woman. I can take care of myself. And you shouldn't have to worry about what other people think of us. You're only a kid. The only things you should worry about is puberty and studying for tests." Mari joked, and to her relief, it managed to make Natalie smile. "But honestly, hon, you cannot let what that girl says get to you or me. At least Laurel's father was kind enough towards us, right?" Mari asked, earning a nod of her niece, who replied, "I guess that's kind of true. I just wish Mom was here to tell me how I should do with Laurel." "Well, although your mom is not with us now, she's still with us in spirit. Which reminds me," Mari said, picking up the small box on her lap and opening it to retrieve the necklace. The necklace was of a small rose quartz crystal held on a dainty gold chain. Mari began to explain, "Your mother used to wear this all the time as her good luck charm, and would used to cry without it. We talked about passing it on to you when you turn 18, but I think you might need it now." Natalie gently held her hair back and let her aunt put the necklace around her neck. As Mari finished, "Your mother would have wanted for you to have it because it always brought her through the difficult times in her life. And now, it will help you too." With the crystal necklace now bound around her neck, Natalie smiled at her aunt and said with a grateful smile, "Thank you, Aunt Mari." "You're welcome, sweetie. Now, let's eat before our food gets any colder," Mari said as she wheeled herself out of the room, and Natalie followed closely behind with a newfound confidence in her step, while also having a slim hope that tomorrow everything would be a lot better. The night was pitch black, with the only light shining was the moonlight at Boomer Lake Park, with a field of grass and a large lake where anyone could go fishing and lakeside to have picnics. However, at the lakeside, something unusual happened that was not seen by the human eye. Suddenly, a rock started to sprout from the ground like a tree. But it began to grow bigger and bigger, with any nearby rocks starting to stick on to the growing rock like a magnet. With every rock in the park attaching itself to the large rock growing from the ground, it began to form an inside enough to consider it as a cave. But while the cave was done forming, the inside of it grew deeper, as it would lead something or someone to the depths of the unknown, an unknown yet to be discovered. Alright, that's chapter 2. I hope you guys enjoy it. Thank you so much for listening. Bye!